This is the third episode on the history of animation. This episode will focus on the mid and late 1900s, 1930s. While the global economy suffered under the Great Depression through the 1930s, animation continued to flourish. Effective color processes were a welcome innovation in Hollywood and seemed especially suitable for cartoons. In England, the cartoon was released in Harris Color, a two-color process, probably the first theatrically released standalone animated cartoon to boast both sound and color. To create an impression of depth, several techniques were developed. The most common technique was to have characters move between several background and foreground layers that could be moved independently, corresponding to the laws of perspective. After the additions of sound and color were a huge success for Disney, other studios followed. By the end of the decade, almost all the theatrical cartoons were produced in full color. Mickey Mouse had been the first cartoon superstar who surpassed Felix the Cat's popularity, but soon dozens of cartoon superstars followed, many remaining popular for decades. Hayes' motion picture production code for moral guidelines was applied in 1930 and rigidly enforced between 1934 and 68. Snow White and the breakthrough of the animated feature. Most of the films before Snow White were made using cutout, silhouette, or stop motion techniques. But when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs premiered on 21st December 1937, it became a worldwide success. 1940s, wartime propaganda. Several governments had already used animation in public information films. During World War II, animation became a common medium for propaganda. The US had their best studios working for the war effort. Successful theatrical short cartoons for the 1940s. During the golden age of American animation, new studios competed with the studios that survived the sound and color innovation battles of the previous decades. A new studio, Fleischer, launched its spectacular Superman adaptation in 1941. The success came too late to save the studio from its financial problems, and in 1942, Paramount Pictures took over. Some other studios that were successful were MGM and UPA. Soon, many classical series from Walter Lantz, Warner Bros., Terry Toons, MGM, and Disney similarly found new life in TV shows for children, with many reruns for decades. 1960s Anime. Japan was notably prolific and successful with their own style of animation, which became known in the English language initially as Japanimation and eventually as anime. In general, anime was developed with limited animation techniques that put more emphasis on the aesthetic quality than on movement in comparison to the US animation. It also applies a relatively cinematic approach with zooming, panning, complex dynamic shots, and much attention for backgrounds that are instrumental for creating atmosphere. 1970s. Breakthrough of adult-oriented counterculture feature animation. Ralph Bakshi thought the idea of grown men sitting in cubicles drawing butterflies floating over a field of flowers while American planes are dropping bombs in Vietnam and kids are marching in the streets is ludicrous. He therefore created socio-political type of animation starting with Fritz the Cat. It was the first animated feature to receive an X rating. Television in the 1990s. John Kirk-Flowsey's influential The Ren and Stimpy show garnered widespread acclaim here. It was notoriously controversial for its dark humor, sexual innuendos, adult jokes, and shock value. The Simpsons and The Ren and Stimpy show also had massive success. The use of animation on MTV increased when the channel started to make more and more shows that did not really fit their music television model. The 24-hour cable channel Cartoon Network was launched in the United States on 1st October 1992 and was soon followed by its first international versions. Here we end the show. There will be one more episode following this, so stay tuned for that. It's been Daniel. Thank you for watching.